Well, this is what we're going to be working on today. If you remember a couple weeks ago, we had a clunking noise in this 624 payloader. We found out what it was. It needs to have the center pins replaced. So I'm mixing up the last couple loads of feed now. However, before we start working on that payloader, I have to address a problem that I'm having with this 7720. It is not charging. I'll show you what it's pulling down for volts on the alternator. It's charging in at, oh, can we see that or not in the camera? Might not be able to see it. Might have to put some light on the situation here. It's charging at 8.8. So if we give the alternator a little bit of a love tap here, it will of course come to life. So it must have a short inside it. We'll try this lovely little we'll see if that took care of it. It won't allow me to run the PTO unless it's got enough juice, and of course that did the trick. We are pulling down 14.1, 14.1, 14.2. So be able to kick the PTO in now. Try to limp this through until we can slap an alternator out. For the feeding tractors, just so we have them. So once we get done feeding, get that alternator in there, we're going to pull this loader in. Looks like we've got to clean it up a little bit, get everything unbolted, split it apart. But before we do that, I'll stash the camera in this articulation joint here, and I'll show you what it's doing. It's just jumping up and down. That's where the noise is coming from. So let's go ahead and load up the last of the feed, and while we're loading here, we'll show you what that looks like in there, if the camera will even show what's going on. We've got the cows all fed. We've got the 7720 in here, and before we can get working on the payloader, we have to change this alternator out. Now, I had one upstairs on the shelf, and it has been up there since 2019. You can see the dust on it. Now, the last time we replaced this alternator was January 16th, 2015. And it had 10,400 and some hours on it, and now it's got just over 21,000 hours. So that alternator went for, oh, big 10,000 hours. So we'll get this changed, and we'll roll this out of the shop, and we're going to roll the payloader in. Now, before we actually decided to replace this, we did the old rub and tug thing with pulling on wires and making sure there wasn't a break in any of the wires, and that was the process that I went through yesterday while I was feeding. And then today I very carefully didn't touch any of the wires, and I just tapped on it a couple of times with my little crescent wrench, and every time I did that, it would bring the alternator to life. So the field must have a short in it somewhere or whatever. So we'll go ahead and get it changed, and that should take care of it. So that should only take a couple minutes. It's a very easy job to replace that. All right, we have the alternator all in place. I've got the old one in the box. That's ready to go back for a core. We'll go ahead and start this up. Make sure it is going to come to life here. Rear hitch system, which I have a load control switch or something is bad on the rear. Alright, we've got the alternator all on there. Now we'll go ahead and we'll fire this up. Make sure it is charging. We'll let it run for a while, and then we've got to put the hours in the computer here. And it does have a malfunction with the rear hitch, the 2-point hitch. So we are right at 14.2 volts. We'll go ahead and turn the lights on. We got the lights on, blower motor, so we are calling for as much power from the tractor as we can ask for, and it's dropped the voltage down to 13.9. Go ahead and rev her up here. So we are good to go. Now we'll check the hours to get the exact hours here. Oh, where are we? So we have 111 hours, 111 and a half hours on the service clock, and then there is 21,234 hours, 21,234 and a half hours to be exact. Now on the 7000 series tractors, they have a what is that, 2-4, they've got a 6-digit display. However, on the 8000s of this vintage, they only have a 5-digit display. So once it gets to 9,999.9, it flips over. So that's not the case on the 7000s. All right, now we start this job here. This unit, this payloader, has got 19,596 hours on it. As you can see, the oil change right there says change at 595. We'll let that computer boot up for a minute, so we might as well dump the oil out of it as well. There's 19,596 hours on it. And we're going to dump the oil on this as well, so that when it rolls out of here, it is completely ready to go. So Jason is undoing lines, and what he's doing is zip tying, putting zip ties on so that he can identify where these hoses get hooked back up to. Usually we do that with colored ties, but we must not have any colored ones, so he's just putting 2 to 2, 1 to 1, 3 to 3, doing it that way. I'm gonna go ahead and roll underneath this unit, get the oil draining out of it, because we had just pulled it inside. We need to get blocks in underneath it. We're gonna use this gantry crane here to hold the front end, because what we have to do is we have to roll the front end forward so that we can get into the center of the machine. So we'll go ahead and just start ripping stuff apart here, and we need to have this done by the end of the day so that we can feed with it tomorrow. So we've got to get busy here. Well, we have everything taken apart, all the hoses and everything. We've got this top pin half up out of there. I don't know if I've got to take that steering column out of there yet or not. I think I can just about get that pin out of there. We've got the main, well, we've got the bolt out of the bottom. There's a pin that's still in the bottom, and that is on the bench right here. So this is the main bolt that came out. There was 6 cap screws that held that in. Then this bolt came down out of there, which this is the new one here. And then this is the pin here. So this pin sits in from the top. So we've got to push that pin out from the bottom. That's got to come up. That'll get the bottom one out, and then the top one is just a regular pin that's got an ear on it. And once we get that off of there, we'll roll the unit forward. We have the gantry set up, got a chain on both sides. That's holding the front of the unit, or the back of the front side of the unit up in the air. And then we've got everything cribbed and underneath the back of the machine here, because this has got the engine in it and the counterweight. This is going to want to actually pick up in the air from the front. So we're hoping we've got that cribbed enough under there to hold the back of the machine up. So right now we're going to go ahead and roll these pins out. We might have to jack that center one up with a bottle jack or something to get that started there. So everything is unhooked and we're ready to pull it apart. What do you say, Junior? First day back, huh?
Well, second.
Second, third, yeah, whatever. So Junior's been screwing around with these 2 toolboxes. The black one's his. This one's the box that we have for the guys here in the shop. And then we've got a lot of guys in the shop here because we're snowed out from hauling manure. They've got the tires all mounted. They're getting ready to do brakes on this truck here. We've got the springs back. Tim went and got those today. We got new spring packs here. Got a new transmission. The brakes are ready to go. Got a new clutch in the box there. And then the guys are working on alley scrapers over in this other bay here. We use alley scrapers to clean the barns with, and then we put a rubber scraper edge piece on the scraper arms themselves. It seems to last a lot longer than putting metal on or heavy plastic. So Jason's looking over that transmission. We had a 15-speed in this truck, and as far as I know, they've got it switched to an 8LL.
Yep.
So all we're waiting for, we can't put this in right now. We're waiting for a pressure plate, a flywheel. So he'll get the flywheel on there, and then put the clutch in, and then the transmission can go in. But we've got the bell housing that could get bolted on here. Jared's going to help him with that. And we need to pull our center pins, right, Bob?
Yep.
You ready to pull center pins? All righty. All right, we've got a bottle jack on the bottom side of that pin there, and we just broke it loose. Now what we have is we are too high. We've just popped out of that bottom ear.
Yep.
We need to actually roll. We got to see if we can roll the front end forward.
You know where it is and then roll it?
Yeah. Okay, hold on a second here. How much do you have raised on these bottle jacks?
Not much.
Not much? Let's let the bottle jacks down so it can find itself.
Alright.
So we've got to kind of get this to center itself. We might be up a little too high. Actually, we're up too high in the front. We might have to actually, we might have to jack the rear. we're gonna have to jack the rear because this pin is in there like that. All right, now we are ready to actually pull this bottom pin. We jacked it up through, we broke it loose. We wiggled that top one out and it got all cattywampus on us because this axle, the machine pivots on the back of the axle. So we got this blocked up in the back to keep that from tipping there. And then we have a jack stand on each side. When I pulled that top pin, it come over this way right onto the jack stand. Now that center bottom pin is loose. We really don't know where the weight hangs from on the loader. We got the chain fall hooked on the back of this thinking that this is heavy here, but we've got the forklift here. We think it's actually wanting to run this way, but the trouble is everything's pinned to that front axle, so it kind of wants to tip. So what we're going to do is we're going to hook a chain on there. Once we get that bottom pin out, which is going to come right out, then we'll be able to have Tim pull the front end, and then we'll be able to push the gantry and get that away from there. It's going to be a real treat rolling this all back together. So I should be able to just pull this pin right out. All right, we got to find center again. I think you got to go up. Yeah. Wait a minute. There we go. We got her now. All right, stand over there. All right, we got this pin out now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to very carefully try walking this away. Hold on a minute, hold on a minute. We got to go up a little bit. All right, put it under there. We're good now. Okay, watch it in case that goes. Get out of there. Hold up a second. Mine won't roll. Alright, go ahead. Hold it. Yeah. Alright, so that was a little bit of a challenge just to try to find where the center of gravity, if you will, where that was. Right now, that is teetering. That is teetering on this axle, just the way that whole geometry of this loader is. That is just as heavy on the rear of that as it is with the mast on the front with all this heavy iron here. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to clean up all the grease and stuff here, and we're going to have to see, and I hope we don't need to line bore this. So it hasn't been doing this that long, therefore we should be able to just roll in some new bearings and some pins and then roll it back together here. So we got to start cleaning things up here, and hopefully all the parts that we have are correct. All right, we have about as much done as we can get done on this here tonight. We've got the bearings knocked out of the top and the bottom. We've got the bearings and the seals and whatever sitting there from the top, and then those are what came out of the bottom, and then that, of course, is the bottom pin. Now, I'm afraid that this is wore enough, and it's wore to the point where it needs to be line bored and everything needs to be tightened up a little bit, because this bottom pinhole here in the machine, you can kind of see that it's wore right there. So this is the new pin here, and there's just a little bit of slop. It's just slightly out of tolerance there. So we're gonna have to get an outfit to come in and line bore that. And what that is they make the holes true with each other. You just can't weld that in and expect that everything is going to be straight, because everything's in a straight line there. So you have to weld it, and then you have to bore it, and you have to bore them the same. So we're going to have to get an outfit in here to do that. Hopefully they can do it in the next couple of days here. So we're going to kind of cut this video right here, because it's going to be some time before they're going to be able to come and get this thing back together. Hopefully I can, persuade them a little bit to get here. But this is a little bit of a challenge to get apart, because you have the counterweight on the back of the machine along with the engine and everything. So this part of the unit wants to tip backwards, and then the front end here, that's more or less balanced. We took the bucket off so we'd have a little more room in the shop here, and I'll show you what I mean by this thing just wants to teeter. It's held on the gantry with a chain on each side. I've got the forklift under the front, and we'll just kind of show you what I mean by things kind of teetering here. The chains have got some tension on them. Of course, I can pick it up. It bangs down on the forklift, and I can just put 100 pounds of pressure on it to bring it back this way, and it brings it down on the chains. Now, if the chains weren't there, this would come crashing down on the floor, and if the forklift wasn't there, it would go down on the floor that way. So it's kind of teetering here right now, and it's going to be a real treat to put back together. So this is where we're going to cut the video here. Again, I'm going to have to get somebody here to line bore that. Tomorrow we're going to work on getting this truck put back together, and I'll show you what we have going on over in the building next door here. Jared came in with a 4020, and he's kind of started the restoration project on that. He's got everything tore apart. He's kind of put a parts list together. Needs a seat suspension unit. Needs the rock shaft guards. Needs a floorboard. You can see the rock shaft guards here, or panels, or whatever. The floorboard is well, I put some diamond plate pieces on right here and over there. Everything's just wore out on it, and of course the pedals are wore right down to nothing. I mean, this pedal is almost wore right to the point where it's kind of getting ready to bend over, and yeah, we're gonna get some new pedals on there, get this thing all spruced up, if you will, get it painted and get it looking like new again. So we'll join in with you on bits and pieces on this project here. I'm not going to do a whole series on it. It's just we've got too much going on. You'll just get to see what we do with it here and there as we go on through this project. So that's going to do it, folks. I want to thank you for watching, and we will catch you at the next video.